United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next up is a portion of approval of the agenda. I have a couple things I'd like to add. I'd like to add an item to our agenda tonight. I would like to move to add a middle school activities discussion and action on tonight's board meeting to be added to the D1A portion of tonight's agenda. I would also like to move, well, first we got to vote on that. I make a motion that we move that to D1A.
Mr. Chair, might you just go through the whole thing and we
Sure.
and I would make a motion, if so inclined, to approve the agenda as amended by the chair.
Okay, I have another agenda item to move. But you don't want to talk about one at a time, so that's why I'm saying we should vote on that.
We might like all of it. What's
Okay.
next?
I move that we move student board presentations to D2 on our agenda so that Valeria can get to her performance choir, right? So we're going
I
to,
think we all agree with that.
Yeah.
So carry on.
okay. So those are my two motions.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the agenda as amended, as you described.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next up is board business. First one is middle school activities,
Nope, we have D1 student board member recognition.
right? D1A is, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right.
So almost 4 years ago, the board added $50,000 per middle school to bring back middle school sports and activities to our district. During these almost 4 years, the district has only added cross-country to our middle school sports. I want the board to correct this failure of action. I move that we add both wrestling and basketball to our middle school activities for the school year of 25-26. Anybody have any discussion?
I think at this point it's symbolic in nature, right?
I agree.
There's many conversations that will need to happen, probably during budget.
Yep.
And, my intent would be looking for a public-private partnership, possibly on something like that, but we'll just have to work through it as it goes. So with that caveat, I'm comfortable voting for it.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, student board recognition. Could we get the student board members up front? Gentlemen, do you want to join or
Sure.
just? Come on up, AJ. Gotta have photos to show your mom. Yeah. And dad, of course. Right there in front of you.
Hi, everybody, how are you?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we moved up student board member presentations or reports. Ladies, who's up first?
South is. For South Albany, we have our last day of school for seniors the 29th. We had prom, and that was a success, as well as our old school dance last Friday for year 2000s. We have scholarship award ceremony this Wednesday at 6, an assembly award ceremony next Wednesday at 11 a.m., and graduation June 3rd. EJ, which is one of our golf players, is going to state today, so we wish him luck. Choir won 5A 5th place at state. And the Gathering of Champions ceremony took place for the first time after Ms. Ayers had left. Red Hook Rising is doing their best for the end of the semester. And we also did a fundraiser for Tape a Teacher, who was Mr. Cahalan, to help up with funds for other clubs. And it was a pleasure to work with you. And I'd also like to recognize our next ASB members who are here present, which is Skylar Wang and Emily Clark, who will take in my substitution. So please welcome them. They're really nice people.
All right.
So to start off with some recognitions, our band won 3rd place at state this weekend. And some events coming up is that we have an art and music night, the 22nd, and our spring picnic is May 30th. Graduation is June 5th, and our upcoming ASB elections are June the 6th. And I'd just like to say it was an honor to represent West Albany.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good performance. District leadership team up, E1, superintendent report. Andy.
We have an overhead. We're going to take you through a few things. We'll start off with a legislative update. Just a few bills to talk about. House Bill 2251, which is a cell phone ban bill, has obviously passed the House. It originated in the House and is scheduled for a potential Senate Ed Committee vote on May 19th. That keeps it alive to move to pass both houses. So that is still around. There is a lot of discussion around lunchtime and passing time, particularly at the higher grades. There is discussion about the bill maybe having different parameters at the elementary versus the high school age. The friction comes from different districts that already have, for example, full bans or have already reached comfort levels by allowing some phone access at times. Pleasing all of them has been a little bit difficult. Another bill is climate change instruction, which defines a sufficient level of climate change instruction across the various subjects. And that one is still alive. It also began in the House. It is a potential vote in the Senate Education Committee on today. We don't know as of this time what happened at that. Senate Bill 916 has remained alive. It has a work session scheduled for today. It is the bill unemployment for striking workers. They have struggled with how to compensate the unemployment and make people whole. Much of that burden falls on districts to calculate at the close of a strike. And so that is still alive and had a committee meeting today on it. And then the funding that we have talked about, the various things that are still alive, they remain with the Joint Ways and Means Committee, where it can move pretty quickly from there, should funding occur. Let's go to the next slide.
Oh, quick question for you about 916.
Yes.
My understanding is that currently both the employee or the employer don't pay into unemployment for the labor groups.
Or the labor groups?
Or unemployment.
Within this district?
Yeah, well, the state.
So individual districts either pay unemployment as they go, which this
Currently?
district is that way,
Okay.
or they may have unemployment insurance.
So they self-insure, some of them.
We self-insure.
So
right?
basically,
we
it's
cover
a
that. So it's a
one-to-one bill for us if it's paid.
yes, right. And so that is that varies across districts. Some people pay the insurance. They found, for example, the unemployment when we had summer, like out of season unemployment this last couple of years. Someone who pays unemployment insurance doesn't have an immediate bill, but then they have their rates change.
Right.
Right. So either way, it's going to arrive at the district. Right. So
Well, I mean, like at my workplace, we both pay into unemployment insurance, both the employee and the employer. Here, that's not going to happen the way the bill exists at this moment.
that's true.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Let's go to the next slide. Just to remind everybody about the Budget Committee, some of the topics we'll discuss tonight will be in much greater depth as we open on May 28th, next Wednesday, 9 days from now. There will be a second budget meeting. It's not number 22, it's number 2. If we go 22 meetings, that'll be a long process. So June 9th, Wednesday, we will have the second budget meeting. Typically, if you'll recall, we do ask people to, on the Budget Committee, to submit questions. We try to come back at that second meeting having answered the questions about the budget. And then ultimately, when it's passed from the Budget Committee, it goes to the board At their Monday, June 23rd regular meeting, you would then have an opportunity to pass the budget at that time.
Andy, do you know when those meetings are, what time?
Give me 1 second here.
And we have a board meeting on the 9th.
Wednesday?
June 9th is a Monday.
It's a Monday. It is Wednesday that is the budget committee. They
okay.
start at 7 o'clock.
So would that be in the 11th then, June
Yes.
11th? Okay.
Yes. So board and budget, 2 meetings in 1 week. Next slide, please.
Before you, well, you can go to next slide. I remember what I want to talk. You take questions now or when you're done?
I'll take questions
Go,
now.
go ahead and finish, because it could become a big.
Could be a long
issue.
time.
Go ahead.
I will acknowledge your right to question when you see a slide that you want to question.
I'll remember it. Carry on.
So last week, May 14th, the June revenue forecast was released. This is typically the revenue and economic forecast that shapes the final budget that is passed out. I can only imagine that having spent the last month building a forecast on new Chinese tariffs, that when that agreement diminishing those tariffs was signed on the 12th, that the people that build our economic forecast just threw a bunch of papers up in the air because there's a lot of uncertainty. So this is a paragraph from the summary, and it basically says these recognized uncertainties, trade and tariff policy, federal government restructuring, tax reform, or known unknowns, pose potentially massive risks to the economic outlook. As such, while the medium-term forecast is always subject to a distribution of potential outcomes or risk scenarios, the elevated risks at present create unique characteristics surrounding the current projections. And that's from the State Office of Economic Analysis. So in the May revenue forecast, state revenues were expected to be down $800 million over the 2-year period from June 30th, 25 to June 30th, 2027, and $44 million down in the CAT tax. That supplies the SIA funds. Next slide. Due to economic uncertainty in the economy, the district will move forward having a budget process. Like most districts, we're slower than other districts. We've gone a little bit later, knowing that this forecast was going to be so pivotal. We're going to move a budget forward at $11.36 billion. In March, we said that we had a $6 million shortfall. In April, we said $5 million, and we believe that it has been cut now to $4 million. I want to specifically thank Jane Nofziger, our business manager, who has continually worked to make sure that it's as diminished as possible. Bruce Schmidt, the assistant superintendent, Dave Bolin, Susie Osborne, everybody has really worked to try to minimize this reduction. A $4 million budget cut is approximately a 3% reduction of the general fund across all funds with people in them. So the Student Intervention Act, the High School Success Fund title is a 2.3% reduction of that total. Next slide. So I don't want to forget this. Currently, in Ways and Means, there are several possible sources of funding. The Early Literacy Fund has been proposed to be increased. It is in the governor's recommended budget that began the session. There's approximately $700,000 in increases there. An increase in special education fund weighting could move from 11% to 14%. Typically, most districts in the state have about 14 or 15% of their students are special education students. The state has not changed. I don't think it's ever changed. It's been 11% for forever. And with that, in theory, would come an increase to $11.5 billion. That's about $1.1 million that hangs in the balance there. There is also a proposal to increase reimbursement to districts for high-cost disability. We estimate that to be in the range of $725,000. And we know that the session is still open, and we would appreciate any advocacy from any portion of the district. directly to your legislators to push them to move that number up. This is the first time in a long time where the move has not been made. Exactly what the governor proposed remains the current funding. No change has been made to that. Next slide. The federal funding is very unclear at this time. In the last 4 weeks with Title I, actually probably the last month and a half, we first heard 25% cuts to Title I. We then heard 10 to 5% cuts in Title I. We then heard no change in funding. Last Friday morning, we heard there could be winners and losers from a new formula in Title I. We are hoping to know by May 30th what districts in the state are going to get in Title I. Title I is about $2.4 million to this district, spread across 8 schools, I believe. They are our poorest schools. IDEA similarly we have been told no change. We have been told slight cuts. And now we hear that it may come in a different formula, which may change that up and down a little bit. The federal portion of special education is not huge in this district. Much of our special education is paid for out of the general fund. And it is subject to a rule called maintenance of effort, which means we cannot spend less ever than we have spent the year before. Federal reconciliation of the budget is ongoing right now. The 2 big threats are the inclusion of a voucher system and then cuts to Medicaid. The cuts to Medicaid would not be education specific. They would probably have broader impacts in community. All of this remains very unclear at this time. We are continuing to work towards right-sizing the district. We have to adjust staffing levels due to a few things. Number one, declining enrollment continues to be. It is nowhere near as severe as the 1920 COVID year, but we still continue to see a few less kids. We did have ESSER funds for a while. Those are gone now. Creating room in the district's budget this year for curriculum is going to be really important as we go forward. And then we have increased staff compensation for all classifications. We always want to remain competitive and do salary studies so that we're not out of step with other districts around us or that are our size in the state. One of the key points to mention here is that the governor's recommended budget did not account for funding increases that would cover inflation. And so both the classified and the certified, as well as the confidential and the administrators have moved forward at about 2%, 2.5% COLAs until the signing of the recent contracts. And the state has not said, wow, you guys had a period of time where you had 16% over 2.5 years of inflation. And so part of that was to make sure that we are keeping up with inflation. This is the current GAPS cohorts by grade. And we are not in as severe an issue as Corvallis, for example, where they are losing about 250 kids a year. But you can see that there has been a decline in our cohort size. And we have a lot more to say about that in the budget committee next week. But in general, we see that if you average the first 6 years versus the second 6 years, that it would be a very a different average number. And so we have to think about that as we move forward. This looks at it another way. This is our historical enrollment, and you can see that the great drop has been in the COVID, first year of COVID. A great number of kids left the district at that time. And then since that time, we have been in a more gradual decline, but a decline nonetheless. If you take a look at our certified staffing levels, this is our teachers. You can see that the top is the enrollment that we just discussed. On the bottom is the number of teaching staff that we have had, and that changed. Now that includes nurses. They are certified. It includes other positions, but we've had a general increase. Nobody is aware, I certainly don't believe that the blue column, the teachers versus the enrollment of that time, that there weren't some problems there and some adjustments that needed to be made. But at the same time, we have gone through the ESSER funds and things and have added staff, and we need to be cognizant of that as enrollment declines. This is not the same chart, but this does show classified staff totals from 2021 to 22, all the way through 25, 26. 25, 26 is actually 24, 25. And by the time we get to the budget committee, we will go back and research 19, 20, and 2021. But you can see as well here, we have increased in our staffing relative to student enrollment. So structurally, we are going to have to make some adjustments there. Obviously, we do not intend to return to a level where there were only as few as there were in 1920 or 21, 22. Next slide, please. We will be working to reduce, and we will include central office and department staff as well. We want to make sure that this is a balanced cut that will provide us the best schools that we can. And we believe that with a 2.5% cut, the schools are still on track to be in pretty good shape. A few new additions to the budget. The budget proposed will include a purchase of K-8 Math Plus, high school algebra, geometry, and algebra 2. Those are the first 3 courses in high school that have the largest number of students. I want to say that the district has committed to a new food service company, Genuine Foods. And I'll talk just a little bit about Sodexo, the company that had been with the district for a long time. Sodexo had been in a position where they had underbid our contract. They had done this with several districts in the state. It created a disincentive for them to make meals that kids liked because they were losing money on each meal. And we ended up at a place where we were holding each other. We were holding them, but at arm's length to arrange a transition. They weren't willing. We were ready to move forward. I thought Dave Bolin did a great job of segueing from that contract. Scott Lewis, who was in the back, had a great quote this morning. We've already begun to experiment with some new food, and one of the children was overheard in one of the buildings saying, "Is it me or is the food better?" And so I really look forward to the fall. I know the staff is excited to go to work with the food that's been improved, and we see our numbers are already up a little bit, just with some change in the menu. Mr. Morris, the budget contains, proposed at this point, middle school sports edition of boys and girls basketball and wrestling. And that is being carried. Obviously, what Roger said is true as well. It's subject to the committee as they work through it, and you guys are part of that. And we believe that these can help the culture of our middle schools. The other thing, and I want to point this out, wrestling is no longer a boys-only sport. In fact, most high school sports wrestling teams have a significant, almost half, and sometimes more than half, are actually girls. The district is working with GAACE right now, that's our classified union, to develop a classified mentor program. This will be a pilot year, and I want to give Liz Craig and Joanne Felice a lot of credit. They went to the REN, which is a Western Regional Network, Education Network, I believe, and they received a grant that was more than what they had asked for. And so we are looking to train up and begin the first year of a mentorship process. I think it's great because it gives a chance for classified staff to have a leadership role among their peers in the district. And it also is something we're going to use to work with the staff to create, where we're going to keep people and help them grow as professionals in that area. And then we are going to add a second online curriculum to Albany Online to allow more student and family choice. I think this is a really important one, and we'll be working on direct marketing to all of our families around it as well. And we have a couple of choices still that are being considered so that we can have a couple things to do. Let's go to the next slide. So we believe that the cuts will still leave our schools in a good place to continue to move forward. Remember that class sizes are committed to remain under defined limits. Reserves are present to address any crowding issues as we go forward. And then our learning systems, and I'll talk about that more in just a little bit. But I feel really confident that as a percent cut and as an impact to buildings, I think with the leaders that we have, I think we can be in a really good position to continue to build on strength. So these are my goals, if you remember. The first one is just to work on a new learning rubric with the teachers. It was selected by our collaborative steering committee, which is teachers and administrators together. And they looked at several different rubrics and they selected the CEL, Center for Educational Leadership's 5D. And what we are working on now and have been through the whole year is work with administrators. They have seen a lot of classes this year and have given a lot of feedback around the 5 different dimensions that we think are really key. And we're working to build skills in administrators to create reflective relationships with teachers about changing their practice. Next slide. This was a slide from the fall. We had a pilot year for teachers and administrators across the district. We wanted all the teachers to be aware of this, that we had a common knowledge of the 5 things that we want to have in every classroom. So through the year, each one of those areas was presented and taught to staff. Then administrators have given feedback to each person as we've done that. We've seen some cool stuff happen out of that. The pilot year did not require that teachers were evaluated this year. And so you would think, if you just looked at that, you would go, oh, how is change going to happen if you don't have a stick? And what we have found is an incredible amount of learning and change has occurred this year. People get together, they talk about what they can do to bring more of these 5 important practices into their classrooms. And we've seen a lot of change that has occurred. I've been really pleased. And in fact, at the Collaborative Steering Committee, we actually had a teacher say, what if we just didn't evaluate ever? If we didn't have an evaluation ever, would that really change things? And my statement would be, we want it to be as reflective as possible. You still, the state requires you to post an evaluation annually. We've been able to take a hiatus, but if we focus on the learning and just treat that as just a milestone, and because I believe most of the teachers, almost all of the teachers in this district, think in terms of how can I be better? And if we put our principals in a partnership there that ask the right questions, then we'll continue to get growth. I am concerned about how we just make sure that people understand that's just a piece of feedback. An evaluation is just something else for you to have that you can learn from, rather than I have the power and I'm going to submit this judgment on you. So that changes the dynamic. At the end of this year, teacher and administrator will get together and just talk about where they want to move as they go into next year. Some buildings I know have already said, hey, as a building, we want to focus on one area or another. And so looking forward to that and growing it in the year to come. Goal number 2 was a facility planning process. I think this is going to be a challenging piece of work for a committee. We want to make sure that we have a large number of our community and really turn over some decision-making to a large portion of stakeholders in the community. Everybody in the community is a stakeholder, and so we want to look at that. This will be covered more in depth at the budget process. We will be looking at several things through the 25-26 year, and this is 24-25 goal. So we have completed our facility condition assessments. We've worked this year with a firm to do that. We are currently in the process of identifying a company to facilitate and lead that. We are currently thinking about the members for that committee. The board will set the mission of that committee. And then this would be a significant change that we really want to do. Move the process to 5-year intervals and disconnect them from the idea that I think this community believes if we put together a committee every 10 years, it's to go for a bond. We have many different things that we need to work on in this district. We have 3 or 4 buildings that were built before 1950. In addition to those, we have one building that was built in 1913. And what we begin to determine and make decisions about needs to come from a committee of our citizens and recommendations for what are the priorities? What will that look like in a period of time when our enrollment has declined slightly, right? So that is in no way saying this is a committee on the road to a bond. This is a committee that has several things that they're going to need to wrestle with. And they will
Clarification.
regularly report to the board. I'm sorry.
Clarification on that, they'll be appointed by the board. That would be the next board, not the current board.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then finally, behavior supports. We want to really make sure that we are prioritizing district support to schools. One of the great challenges, Salem Kaiser had this, we have school-based self-contained classrooms that create a lot of challenges at times in terms of how do you get kids into the least restrictive environment and do so safely for other students as well as staff. I want to say that this year has been a great shift. We have seen a lot of presence from people in buildings coaching, and we want to continue to review those. And Bruce, do you want to share just a little bit about establishing a committee to periodically review responses to behavior?
Yeah, so we have 2 components to that. One is Article 22, which came out of the collective bargaining agreement. We just had our first meeting with the district behavior committee. We shared some ideas, some data, and we have some stuff that we're going to put together to implement in the fall, both contractually and just because it's the right work to do. The second thing that we're doing is we're putting together a larger group to develop a student safety and discipline handbook. That will include a district philosophy on what discipline looks like, what student safety looks like. We'll clearly articulate how we work through behavior situations in tier supports, much like our academic system of MTSS. That will be implemented in a behavior system as well. It will develop a consistent matrix around discipline that will be used both K-5 and then 6-12. In addition, it'll hold all of our board policies around behavior in a single document and book that kind of articulates everything that we want to do and hang our hat on from a safety and discipline standpoint. So we're looking forward to doing that.
Thank you. The second part of the goal, next slide. A little bit disappointing. What we had hoped to do was look at particularly Fairmont School here in Albany as a cooperative regional venture for a regional behavior program that would include wraparound supports. One of the things that has gotten in the way of this is Lynn Benton Lincoln ESD receives funding based on the total enrollment of all the school districts in the ESD. And so even though we are seeing a slight decline, their funding rests on us and Corvallis and Lincoln County, everybody together. And they have gone through a significant reduction this winter. And so looking to figure out who is still in charge of that and move that forward. We have done some exploration at this point of different models, but we do not have this as far forward as I would have liked it at this time. Typically, when you run a program regionally like that, there's a slot cost that member school districts can pay. If we could expand the program and be assured that, Albany had a place where they could send kids with greater treatment, we'd love to have that. And we're still looking at moving that forward. We have looked at Lane School. We've looked at an alternative school or a behavior center at Silverton. And we think that there are some good models out there, but at this point, we're going to have to continue to bring other districts in the ESD along. And that's it for me. Turn it over to Jane.
Roger had some questions.
You let me reserve the right to, sorry, Jane, can I?
Okay.
You're probably going to answer all the questions I have anyway, but I wouldn't have them then, so let me ask them now. First, I want to talk about the budget and the process. And there are two ways to look at that process. One is it's an exercise in our best projections of what are going to happen and what we may or may not have. And this is really complicated because there must be 100 moving parts around the revenue side of all of this, right? But as I understand state law, at the end of the day, the budget exercise is to set spending caps. Is that right?
Yes.
Revenues show up or not, there's a ceiling on what the district could spend, and they can't spend beyond whatever that number is. I guess I'll just say it. I saw we went through the slides, and one of them that jumped out was the number of teachers in 2019-20 and students. And my question is, how many statutes have been passed, and how many additional responsibilities do both certified and classified staff have today versus 2019?
Well, I think you could go to the SIA, the Student Intervention Investment Account. And so that funding has come, and of course, the requirement would be that we added positions that met the outcomes in that. And so those have come as a result of additional funds outside of the general fund and not related to the number. I mean, we get it in a formula on the number of students, but so those like reading coaches, things like that. There are some funds that have expanded that beyond that and have specific requirements to that. I would be hard pressed to say that there is something that has required more students on a per student formula, right? So in other words, the increases in staff.
Yeah, I'm talking about responsibilities in the building of staff, both teachers and classified employees, either or. I mean, I guess my question, my ask before we get to budget would be, and I don't know what entity would do it, but I'd want to see the list of statutes that have passed related to education since 2019 that impact workloads. And intuitively, I think that's a significant number. I don't know it. I would need to see it, and maybe it's not. But I think we need to be considerate
It's worthy
of
of
that.
looking at. We'll have that answered. We will look at that.
Okay. And so then the governor announced last summer, I think, a desire to add $500 million to the K through 12 budget. They announced they were doing that, but then when it came time to formulate this next budget, and the money was only available going forward, by the way. We didn't get a check coming from the rearview mirror. And so they were only going to use it in projections going forward, and then they've not added to the rest of that to meet the normal inflationary requirements. And so I think that at $500 million, you have previously indicated that every $100 million that state number moves up is, at the time, $700,000 in funding. So if the governor would just keep her word and the legislators would just keep their word, that's $3.5 million, and we don't, our shortfall then is minimal. And that, stranger things have happened than people keeping their word about education funding. And so I would hate for this budget exercise to start off assuming that that's not going to happen, and we're going to, in theory, looking at cutting positions that we would hope would never come to be.
So let me restate that. You believe that the 500 has not been allocated yet?
Clearly, just do the math. I mean, they said, yeah, we'll add,
Okay.
they'll just add, and I've been pointing that out to here regularly, to any body representing education at the Capitol. And look, I've not been impressed with the response I've gotten, but the simple math indicates
So.
that the intent has not been met, and either it will or it won't, but I don't want to start from a default position that it's not. And we're putting together a budget accordingly when, at the very least, you should build the room in the budget and the revenue, on the revenue side, to anticipate that money coming in. Because if you don't, it's, in my view, declaring defeat on that promise.
So you always have to remember, the current biennium was 10.2 plus early literacy. This budget is 11.36, which is an increase, and which is where her claim is that has been met.
So okay, yeah,
The other
can
thing.
I finish this?
Yeah, I just raised my hand, I didn't talk.
You're the chairman. Usually the chair raises their hand. That means I should shut up. But let me finish.
Keep going.
So 10.2 to 11.2, that's a 10% increase. That, our labor costs go up 5 to 7% a year. And so 10.2 would cover, to 11.2 would cover existing. It doesn't, the consensus is we were shorted $500 million based on what the state gave their own employees. And I think there was some internal agreement with that. And so declaring we're going to move it up 10.2 to 10.7, and then you only move that up 500, in round numbers 5%, that's 2.5% a year. That's not historically been the level it's moved up to. It's been more than that. And so yes, I'm absolutely saying it's short. The simple math indicates it is so. And the governor, the leadership of both the House and the Senate have indicated they have a priority to fund public education. And we just need to keep asking them to do that. And it's concerning to me that professionals representing the education community don't seem to be very aggressive about doing that because they're afraid of losing their seat at the table.
That's fair.
I'm sorry.
I think one of the things that also, yes, 10.1 to 11 points, but something we don't even talk about there is over half of that's going to the PERS increase.
That's right. I was about to say that.
So now you give 6% of that 10% to that. Now you have 4%
That's right.
to spread against 2 years, And the other thing that's very upsetting, I know Roger said multiple times, so we got, 5% over the last 2 years? What'd they give to their own state employees?
Yeah.
Right, 6% a year?
It was 6.5, it amounted to 13.
But they give us not even a third of that to do the same thing, right? And so the only way to deal with that is to take it out of your hide, right? Because we need to be giving that to our staff. Our staffs are 85-90% of our budget, right? And they deserve to have a raise. But the reality is we get almost all our money from the state. If we don't get more money from the state than 2% a year to pass on to our employers or employees, how do we do that? You can't. And that's a sad situation.
Absolutely. And the PERS, Jane and I both talked about it. We'll get into that at the Budget Committee in depth quite a bit. You always have to remember a couple things. Number one, the current employees do not,
Labor costs are labor costs.
well, but the current employees do not make up what is called the unfunded liability in PERS.
I get that.
It is, Carol Samuels, who does our PERS projections, said, you know, by and large, the current employees are paying in and getting out something that is a fairly reasonable pension as a result of that. The UAL, unfunded actuarial liability, rests completely with people that have separated employment over the last
I
25
100%
years.
understand that, but
Right, and so we're just gonna have to pay for
What
that.
category does that go to? Does it go to buildings? Does
No.
it go to curriculum?
It comes off the top of payroll.
Right, and payroll's what? It's labor.
Anybody, I have one more.
Go ahead, Roger.
So I want to make sure, and tonight's probably a good night to do that, that this body will have new board members elected tomorrow or Wednesday. Who knows how that all will work with mailing in ballots and all of that, but after Election Day. I want to make sure that whoever they are, they don't have the same, I guess, rough start or tumultuous, the rough start that we had 4 years ago. And that I would imagine there's board policies about transition process. I'd ask you to look at those, and if they're not adequate, make some adjustments. But the other thing is that this board commit tonight to no executive sessions next month, signing no long-term contracts that bind future boards, and that new members get input in the budget process. Because they're going to show up July 1st on a budget approved by someone else. And it's important that we do a little team building and there's buy-in and consideration of everybody involved.
Thank you, Mr. Nyquist. Chris and I have met. We have discussed a calendar and a transition for newly elected board members. It will look somewhat the same that Mr. Mattingly and Mr. Taylor did when they came on, but there is a commitment on our part to make sure that they are up to speed and learning quickly.
We've made a commitment to onboard whoever it is. We're not going to not onboard people. That's not how it should be done.
No, we're going to do that. Chris has done a great job. We're ready to go.
Okay. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you for now.
Okay, looks like business financial report. Jane?
Thank you. So Roger, I hope you're right about the 500 million. And if we were to receive additional, there are procedures to be able to add to the appropriation through through the board process. So Andy asked me to cover just a little bit on basic school support. We had some questions around the balancing of our May adjustment. And 23-24, the balancing of that is between the statement we received last May for 23-24 and then the one we have received this May for 23-24. So the difference between those two is a positive 1 million. And it's really not a lot of changes. The way we were paid for the ADM was based on the prior year, 22-23, so that didn't change. We were paid on 8888 ADMR, which was the 22-23 number. But the state overall, with balancing all school districts, all taxes, transportation, all of the pieces, resulted in 56 million being added to the total pot and distributed to schools through the formula, which resulted in $1 million increase to us, which will help out with the next slide. For 24-25 balancing, which is the same thing. We received a projection that we based our budget on last May, and we do have a reduction of ADM, and that is back. We're being funded at the 23-24 ADM for 24-25 because it's the highest of 2 years. Remember, ODE does a leveling of ADM for districts who are in reduced ADM to help level that out so it isn't so painful. And that's where we have been the last 2 years, is being paid on the prior year because the current year is lower than prior year. So for 24-25, our adjustment is a negative $2 million. And then that reduction comes from a reduction of 120 students. And then our teacher experience compared to other districts in the state, that is a formula component in the basic school support funding formula, which is a very long formula. It's one of the pieces that resulted in a negative $637,000. And then our taxes came in a little bit higher, which reduced basic school support by almost $100,000. So those components equal up the $2 million decrease.
And when you say our taxes came in a little higher, our
Property
property
tax.
taxes.
Yes. Local revenue. Thank you, Andy.
Go ahead, Roger.
So where does that $2 million go?
Other districts.
It is all component based on the projected ending fund balance for 24-25. I knew about the 2 million. I didn't know about the million increase. I mean, I had guessed it would be about 600,000. So these aren't surprises to us. They're part of our projected ending fund balance.
So Roger, whenever there's in the school formula, there is local revenue. Let's say that there's $1 million of timber that's cut within our district.
Don't get me started on that.
All right, so if we had some significant local revenue that's on that formula, it would amount to a school district reduction from the state because timber would then be spread out to all districts. So on our formula, the formula would be reduced. We would get a portion of that spread out.
Yeah, I just want to know who's getting it then. All the
It's-
other districts?
All districts, yeah.
Yeah.
It's spread out in the formula to all the districts in the state.
Thank you. Carry on.
And then the last piece of this, I wanted to just kind of explain PERS because I've had questions about what the Senate bill meant to our district. So for 24-25, the PERS costs, and this isn't the debt service, this is just the PERS rates, the 6%, and then the UAL for Tier 1, Tier 2, and OPSERT. So for 24-25, it's 16 million. When I look in my budget right now, it's 19.2 million. So I don't know if you remember, I talked about the 4% rate increase for our district. That was about 3 million increase. And then, of course, the salaries increase based on our COLAs and steps. And then Senate Bill 849 resulted in about $1.4 million reduction. So I took a 1% reduction because we don't know yet exactly what that, it's 1.68% reduction on your rate. But where we get rate credits based on our bond, Carol Samuels visited with Andy and I and suggested that 1% would be a good number to use. So every percent's about, I don't know. Anyway, so it's 1.4 million reduction, and then our total cost is 3.18 increase. And like Andy said, when Carol met with us, she talked about our side account expiring and the debt service and what that looks like. And so, and for the budget committee, we will be going through that process and the plan that we have to help us adjust as the rate credits go away. there's a time period where the rate credits go away, but you still have the debt service. And over time, a long time, 20 years, that bond has saved the district, was it 14 million, Andy?
16 million.
16 million. So it's a really good move by Russ Allen many years ago. But because payroll has increased at a rate greater than they projected, the rate credit will go away before the debt service goes away. And so we do have a plan to kind of smooth that out and take the district through that. So I will be explaining all of that. Questions?
Protest. The PERS board calculates a rate based on the value of their portfolio 18 months ago
Yes.
in general.
Yes.
And if they would bring it up a year, that would help everybody. So just know that in your travels going forward if it ever comes up.
So we have spent time over the last decade asking them, so the legislature, in fact, did that. They went to an off-year session so that they could manage midterm. We have proposed that they would meet annually. I think the other thing is looking at the investment or the window of the costs. And we'll talk a lot more about this at the Budget Committee, but rates are not projected to decline until estimated 2033. So we've had this growing PERS rate. It has to do with life expectancy of Tier 1 employees who've been retired. And at that point, they will begin to see, they project that rates will begin to decline at that point, but that's 8 years away.
Well, and that happened because in the 90s, the legislature guaranteed a floor of 8% return for retirees. But if there was an upside, the retiree got that. And so you're right. 40 years later,
We face it.
Any other questions? Okay, next up, board reports. Sean, you have anything? Brad?
I got a report from a parent about the flag policy not being enforced. And so I reached out to Bruce, and he got me a list of all the schools and what's going on. We did find a problem, and it's been corrected. And so I think we're all in compliance now, which I really appreciate. I know it was one of my signature things, and so I'm not going to call anybody out or whatever. But that we're going to get us all complying with state law would be fantastic. And I also wanted to reiterate what Roger said, and when we onboarded, because there will be at least 2 new members, when the 3 of us onboarded, it was terrible. Yeah, we had 0 support, 0 coaching, and so I certainly would be available to help with new members, bringing them on, and I think the other guys would too. So let's give them a good start on the board. So that's all I've got.
Roger?
we got some fast girls running around the track at South Albany, I tell you. We have a 2-time defending state champion in the 100, 200, and 400, Farah. And she's a junior this year, and she's not even the fastest girl on our team right now. A freshman coming up is really good. Look forward to hopefully watching them and all our young track athletes at the state meet. And shout out to those doing well in tennis and baseball and all the spring sports. Do want to commend this group of high school seniors in general. You all went from basically part of your 7th grade year to high school. I mean, you had the last month of your 8th grade year, and that's just was such a jump socially for a group. And in general, you all have worked through it, gotten through that, and the social skills and the working together has improved greatly over the time, and you've really earned this. And I hope that graduating students and their families really take in the moment and enjoy that and acknowledge the rough ride it was at time and all that you've accomplished.
Ryan, you have anything?
Well, I was going to say, Director Morse and I took Swarm Robotics up on an invitation to come visit their facility, and I'll tell you, I had pretty high expectations, and even so, they were exceeded by how complex and how impressive the whole operation was, and to the point where I don't think I can describe it as well as a video could describe it for me. So we asked them to make a video, and I'm going to go ahead and just show that right now if we could.
I think we're ready.
Video, you showing a video?
It's pretty cool.
Swarm is a student-led program that merges the excitement of sports with the rigors of science and technology. We strategize, design, build, program, and refine competition-ready robots. Swarm members also build our brand, form community partnerships, raise funds, and promote
Maybe just put a mic by it.
It's,
Swarm is a student-led program that merges the excitement of sports with the rigors of science and technology. We strategize, design, build, program, and refine competition-ready robots. Swarm members also build our brand, form community partnerships, raise funds, and promote STEM in our local area. We compete in the first robotics competition, upholding the values of gracious professionalism and cooperation. This means we strive for excellence, show respect for others, and foster collaboration, even with our competitors. Ultimately, Swarm's mission is to provide students with hands-on learning experiences in vital STEM fields, preparing them for the future.
It all begins with kickoff. On the first Saturday of January, First reveals that year's game challenge. From then, over 3,500 teams have just 6 weeks to analyze, prototype mechanisms, and build a functional robot. For us, balancing simplicity with functionality is key. Our students ensure smooth team organization and efficient processes, keeping us on track to meet deadlines and stay within scope. All the hard work and collaboration culminate in our season competition robot, this year named Squishy, inspired by jellyfish and the water theme of the challenge.
A competition is the ultimate test. Multiple days of 3v3 round-robin battles to see which teams can score the most points, followed by a double elimination bracket where the top teams compete to win it all. Swarm had an outstanding season, setting new team records and forming strong playoff alliances.
Work doesn't stop after a first competition ends. In the world of robotics, innovation is key, as teams that don't improve are left behind. That's why Swarm dedicates hours to refining our robot between competitions. We redesign subsystems, optimize our software, and keep moving forward to improve our key mechanisms, like our climbing system and autonomous routines, to gain an edge over the competition. Every advantage counts, especially at the PNW District Championship, where teams from Oregon and Washington compete, hosting some of the highest scores worldwide. Their Swarm overcame challenges, earned the Imagery Award, and qualified for the World Championship in Houston, Texas.
The
First World Championship is a gathering of over 600 teams across 8 divisions. This year, Swarm had the incredible opportunity to compete alongside some of the best teams in the world.
Even after competition season ends, our work continues. Outreach is a vital part of SWARM. We're actively involved in local events like the Linden County Fair, Benton County Fair, and Northwest Art and Air Festival, where we share a passion for STEM and promote the SWARM brand within our community. SWARM believes in supporting STEM programs in our community by supporting First LEGO League, Explorer, and Challenge teams, as well as First Tech Challenge teams, which serve elementary and middle school students, helping them gain hands-on experience in STEM and fostering future interest in these fields. None of this would be possible without the support of our students, parents, mentors, sponsors, and community partners. Together, we'll continue to inspire the next generation of innovators and spread the values of gracious professionalism for years to come.
Add that it was an amazing experience, and I think I expected programming and problem solving. I was really surprised by how much manufacturing was involved, from raw materials and putting it, into the robot itself. And then, one of the criticisms I hear quite a bit is that our high schools aren't doing a good job of getting our kids ready for the world of work. But talk about getting the kids ready, not just the hard skills, but the soft skills, the teamwork, the problem solving, the working together. And they say student run, and they're not kidding. I don't think we talked to an adult when we were there, maybe at the very end, but it was student, hand off to student, hands off to student, telling us about each room and each section and everything that they did. So I could not be more impressed. It's just a phenomenal program.
That's awesome.
Wow.
You done? Okay, yeah, Swarm was really impressive. It was really cool to go there and check it out. I didn't know that existed over there, and it was really neat to see. And obviously, the hard work's paying off. They're doing really well. Few things I want to talk about. We're breaking in or starting the new food service program. I think it's great. What I've heard from both students and staff is really good. It's moving in the right direction. I think it's improving quality and things like that. So thank you, Dave, and everyone else who's involved with that, everybody who's delivering that. I think that's great. If you're a student and have something to say to somebody about that, please let us know what you think. That helps us figure it out. As Roger said, graduations are coming up. That's pretty exciting, especially for those of us who have seniors who are graduating. It's an exciting time, and I know the board always likes going to the graduations and seeing that fruition of a lot of hard work coming together for a lot of our students here in Albany, to move forward and do the next thing in their life, the next step. Middle school track had some competitors compete, I think, in districts and state, and they did really well, so that's pretty cool. Middle school activities, like we've talked about, I'm really glad we're adding a couple sports. 4 years ago, we added money to that, and we're starting to actually get some more value out of it, and I think that's fantastic. I think it's an opportunity for our teachers and staff to have more interaction with our students and help direct them and mentor them so they have better behaviors and are a little bit more focused on school and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's fantastic. One of the things we've been talking about budgeting, and one of the huge things with budgeting that is, I didn't really realize until I was a board member, but unfortunately, one of the things that's taken place is the capture rate for, K through 12 aged kids in Oregon for public education is going down quite a bit. Not as much for us as most other places in the state, but that's a huge drive, right? I mean, we've lost students. Like you ask Portland or Salem and other places, they've lost thousands of students because parents are sending their kids to other places, and that's really disappointing. And that's something we all that care and love public education need to try to improve so we capture more of those kids. I 100% believe that public education, we need a very strong public education to be successful in life, to be successful as a country, as a nation, and the idea that we're starting to go this two model more, what I mean by two model is private versus public, that's not healthy for us. But it's the road that we're starting to go down. So I think we need to do some improvements so that we can increase our capture rate of our citizens that they want to send their kids to Oregon public education.
Mr. Chairman, might you describe capture?
Capture just makes, so at one point, and Andy, correct me if I'm wrong here, okay, if I get the numbers right. At one point, we captured about 91%. So 100 kids, of 100 kids, 91 would go to public education. I think that number is now down to more like 82 or 83 of 100 kids. That's a huge difference. That's almost double the amount of kids that their parents are deciding not to send them to public education. Okay? We all have to understand as that number goes down, the funding for public education will go down. We'll get vouchers, we'll get something, and who will suffer from that? Well, I think everyone in public education, so it's something that we really have to understand and think about when we make changes to public education that maybe someone might not like and they might move their kid out of public education. Is that what you wanted answered, Roger?
Just capturing kids sounds a little...
Well, okay, so the percentage that attend public education is decreasing.
Thank you.
Considerably.
I would add one thing to that. The demographic information that we'll share next week at the Budget Committee makes that a more complex picture. There's just been a decline overall and is projected to continue for the foreseeable future, a decline in the number of school-age students aged 6 to 17 as well is in decline, and we'll talk about that, which impacts that as well. It's not like our population forecast that we've worked off of, which had that capture rate on it, that wrangle rate, that recruitment rate or whatever. We also behind that have just fewer children being born in Oregon, and it's in decline as well. So we'll talk through those different pieces of information, but the capture rate is not what it was.
No, and so we have a lot of kids that aren't going to public education.
Yep.
Okay, so next up, committee, community, and school presentation, school report, Albany options. Bruce.
Thank you, Board Chair. I'd like to introduce Mr. Mark Hannon to present the amazing things going on at Albany Option School.
Well, thank you, folks, for allowing me the time to talk to you about the wonderful things that are happening at Albany Option School. I'm going to go through our school improvement plan, our goals tonight, and I just want to preface that the three goals that I will share tonight, we have found that we have some additional work to do on each of these goals, and so we will be rolling these goals over for 25-26. After conferring with our site council and speaking with staff, we feel that it's important that we continue the work and hopefully at some point meet these three goals. What I have up there on the screen to begin is our mission statement, and I shared with you last year. It's a little wordy, but it is ours, and it does describe us. I won't read that to you. You all can read that, but it's important that I emphasize that not only are we a smaller learning environment, but we emphasize social and emotional learning on top of the academics.
You have a clicker right next to you.
How about that? All right, goal number one. 96% of our graduates or GED completers will have an implemented post-secondary plan by the end of this school year, and that would be a 45% increase from the 22-23 school year when we began this goal. We started out at 52%, and we accumulated that data from senior post-secondary planning surveys, senior exit surveys, counseling department data, and so forth. I have today's update of that particular goal, and we are at 81% of graduates or GED completers having an implemented post-secondary plan. So we obviously have additional work to do there. 81% is a 29% increase from 3 years ago, but that number really needs to be 100% of our graduates and GED completers with an implemented post-secondary plan. The things that we will continue to do and expand upon, we have a full-time career advisor now, and she has taken on the Oregon CIS training, and that will be implemented into our new career required course next year, and she's going to teach that course, and we're really excited about that. Our ROCKS curriculum is our advisor program, and students attend that 4 days a week, and we incorporate post-secondary plans in that curriculum. Again, we want to expand on our construction trades program. We implemented a FAFSA night, which was very well attended. We've had local business partners come in to present, and our career advisor goes into our advisory and does presentations. She took a group to LBCC today to sign up for classes for the fall, and we will continue individual meetings with students and the career advisor to develop their plan. Goal number 2, this began as a 3-year goal to increase our completer rate to exceed the state average. And as you may recall, we base our goal on the 5-year completer rate. And the reason that we do that rather than the graduation rate is because of our GED program. Every student that we finish with a GED that walks out our door counts against our graduation rate. So the 5-year completer rate incorporates students that come to us that were credit deficient. It gives us that 5th year as a cushion to get them either graduated or a GED. The reason that we're continuing this goal is after receiving this year's report card, we went from 86% to 85%. So we went backwards, and this really is what we gauge our success on. This goal really should be 100% of our students walking out our door with either a GED or a diploma.
Hey, I know you'll have questions at the end, but real quick.
Of course.
When you say state average, are you putting yourself in all high schools, or is that the average for alternative high schools?
That's all high schools.
Okay, I thought so. I think that's important to clarify.
I really appreciate that because we're held accountable in all of these metrics against all high schools, not alternative high schools. That's an excellent point. Our action steps we have all but one of our teachers currently trained that has attended the formal QTEL strategies training. And as you may know, that's quality teaching for English learners, and we incorporate that school-wide. We feel that those strategies are important strategies for all students, not just our English learners. Our care team meetings take place every 6 weeks. We discuss a lot of things, mostly around emotional and social circumstances for our students. We meet weekly with the leadership team, and we evaluate the SIP plan and its effectiveness constantly. Goal number 3, and this isn't the most important goal, but it's the goal that affects other goals and really affects student success and our effectiveness with students, and that's our regular attenders rate. As you may know, the regular attenders rate is 90%, and we are dramatically below the state average of 62%. In fact, the state average is, in my opinion, too low. And so we began this year we took our federal improvement dollars and hired an attendance supervisor, and it happens to be the former principal at South and the former principal at AOS, John Hunter, and he's done some amazing work that I will talk about in a couple of slides from now. We meet weekly in our leadership team. We evaluate attendance data. We discuss strategies on how to better support our students emotionally, socially, academically, and then we meet regularly to develop culture and climate strategies. We want the experience at AOS to be something that kids value, and they walk away with that being an awesome 8 hours of their day. The college and career readiness slide really relates to our first goal. Like I said, we have a full-time career advisor, and she does amazing work. She does one-on-one meetings, class presentations, and advisory, coordinates FAFSA night, assists students in scholarship applications, military enlistment, resume writing, job applications, developing interviewing skills, coordinates college and university visits, coordinates our Oregon CIS program, and as I mentioned, she'll teach our newly required college career course, not college, beginning in the fall of 25. And you'll notice there, a lot of this is higher ed, but that doesn't mean that we don't address things like trade schools and the military and all of those other things that are important for our students to consider. Other key priorities. So this is the slide that I referenced. Attendance is something that if you talk to administrators statewide, and I do, it's an issue everywhere, and we are addressing it at AOS. And I utilize federal improvement dollars to hire Mr. Hunter. He's done 52 home visits. He's done 325 face-to-face check-ins, resulting in a positive 7.5% increase in the attendance of those students. Improving the attendance will be a focus of our staff work next year as we continue the plan that Mr. Hunter started, and that will take place in our August in-service and along with our early releases. Next steps.
Question mark.
Oh, yes, of course.
So how many students does that represent a focus on that John worked with directly?
The 325 face-to-face?
So, yeah, was that with 50 kids? Was that with 30 kids? How did you guys
I
focus?
don't have that number, but I can get that number. That 325 obviously is multiple meetings. And I'll talk about this in just 2 bullets on how we address that. So he's going to continue the individual check-ins, the home visits, the parent meetings, and we as a attendance team broke students up in 3 tiers. Tier 1 is green, attending and progressing. Tier 2 is yellow, targeted support, and Tier 3 is intensive support. The targeted support are the face-to-face check-ins. The intensive support are the home visits and the parent meetings. And then John and I met and we started talking about data, and we're both kind of stat nerds, so we started talking about the 4 quadrants of students' attendance versus their success. And we have low attendance, that students don't attend very well but are still successful. We have high attendance and high success. We have low attendance and low success, and we have high attendance and low success. And we've mapped those all out, and that will be part of our work in August with the staff discussing what are the X factors that put those students in those different quadrants, and what can we do to get students in high attendance, high success. I mentioned that our professional development plan is going to include our entire staff, led by myself and Mr. Hunter. This is my favorite slide, points of pride and promise. Our CTE program continues to expand and grow. We're using Measure 98 dollars to create a space. Some of you have visited and seen the space that Mr. Diaz uses out back. Well, we currently have a space that has old planters that we're going to fill that in, and that will be another space that he'll be able to build the sheds and the dog houses and all of the great work they've been doing, and we're going to access that with a gate in the fence. He's doing amazing things. You may have seen they were on the fire department's social media recently. They built a doghouse and donated it to the fire department for them to auction off. They're constantly doing things like that to give back to the community. I mentioned our career advisor is full-time. I feel very confident that for our school, that's a really important position, but it's also one that I'm proud that we're able to have a full-time career person. College Now, many of you know, we started with no College Now classes several years ago to we now offer 5. And we're articulated 4 of those with LB, and then Mr. Diaz's CTE classes articulated with Lane. Our mental health services, about 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, we partnered with North Albany Wellness and developed an MOU for them to come into our building and offer their service in the building. So it eliminated the barriers of transportation, eliminated the barriers of cost. We work with them and OHP to get our students in front of a mental health worker in our building. I mentioned our school-wide QTEL strategies. We feel very strongly that that's important work that we do with all of our students. And then lastly, the attendance supervisor that I mentioned and the work that Mr. Hunter has done. We started him mid-year, and I hope to have him for the entire year next year, depending on how our federal improvement dollars are expended. Questions for me?
I hadn't really ever heard of the quadrant idea before, and so it's not necessarily a question directed at you, but is that something that could be implemented in other schools? Because it seems like each quadrant definitely has its own areas and ways you could support each quadrant that could be very helpful.
That's definitely.
Don't want to create work for the other schools, but I appreciate
no, Mark, we're going to make work for you because you're going to lead everybody through that process.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Thank you.
You know, it's data that he and I started looking at, and we started having. We're small enough that we knew where each little scattergram, we knew names and faces that we could put to those. So it started to make some sense to us about where students were falling. It would be fascinating to look at that from a 1,500 comprehensive student high school, but it's something that we're going to continue working on.
And so just so that, like, there's a clear green, yellow, red MTSS pyramid at the lower levels as well that is tracking kids academically. Less so around credits, more around skill and progression, which you guys see on the board.
Yeah, we didn't reinvent the wheel there. We borrowed that, so.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Brad.
I just want to say that you guys do great work out there. You're taking at-risk kids and giving them a second shot. And even though your numbers might be down just a little bit, awesome work.
Really appreciate that. And I have to, that all the credit goes to my staff. They're amazing. They were handpicked and selected because of the type of people they are. And it really makes me proud as the building principal to see the work they're doing every day.
Go ahead, Roger.
Mark, I just thank you for clearing up the mystery for me. John Hunter, a couple months back, extorted free bowling from me for a bunch of kids, and now I understand. It was like, how did I get him back in my life? But
a lot of us say that, actually.
So the other thing I want to say is that as a small business employer, kids who graduate from Albany Options, by and large, are ready to go to work. They've learned a lot of good skills, and you know what you're doing while they're with you is important. But I think what happens for them when they leave you is you're to be commended for as well, because you're setting them up for more success throughout their life, and I don't think that can be overstated. So on behalf of the community, just thank you.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I appreciated the bowling day. I attended that, and we had a great time, and the students had an awesome time. We've tried to put together some incentives for kids to reach milestones that to improve their attendance. And in terms of, I appreciated what Mr. Mattingly brought up regarding soft skills. It's something that we impress upon our students in all of our classes. Specifically in our construction trades class, we really emphasize the soft skills. And in fact, for those of you that will be at our graduation ceremony this year, that's going to be one of the things that I address in my address to the students. So I look forward to the opportunity to talk about that then.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, you know, you talked about your points of pride and promise, and Albany Options is definitely a point of pride for this district. It's got to be one of the best alternative high schools in the state, I would think. And so just, you know, thank you. I think people maybe don't understand how phenomenal it is that you're comparing yourself to regular high schools when you're looking at your 5-year completer rate, because your kids are starting behind the 8 ball. That's how they get there.
Absolutely.
So that's just amazing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And any of you are always welcome to come and visit. We love having visitors.
Just saying the same thing, having come visit and seeing it, it's amazing. You guys do a great job. Your staff all are really motivated and obviously really focused on the kids. You know, the idea that you're talking about soft skills, that is so important. You know, most kids can look at this thing, but, you know, talking to someone face to face is kind of hard, you know, and that's something that we need to bring back. And I think that's fantastic. Another thing that you mentioned, and unfortunately it's a statewide thing, is attendance, right? I mean, how do we teach kids reading, math, and, you know, all the rest if they don't come to school? You know, that kind of makes it hard. You know, and attendance has really gone down over the last few years, you know, and the state hasn't helped. They've taken away some of the tools that we used to have kids attend school. You know, I mean, how can we help them succeed if they don't come to school, right? I mean, we need them to come to school. We need a way for kids to come to school. But great job. I'm glad John, you know, sounds like he's got some time on his hands and he's going to give it to you. That's fantastic. Thank you for all you do. I think you and all your staff deserve to be very proud about the product you produce.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we couldn't agree more with you about the attendance issue. It's why it's going to be such a focus of our work as we move forward. We feel very confident at AOS. I'm very confident at AOS. If we get students in the building, we'll get them across the stage or we'll get them a GED. I'm very confident in that.
And you know, that should just go without saying. I mean, how do we get them to the finish line if they're not showing up? Right?
You give them free bowling.
Yeah.
That has helped.
But I mean, it's just, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, another school report, Lafayette Elementary. Bruce.
I'd like to introduce Jamie Shep, principal at Lafayette Elementary School. She's going to present the amazing things that they're doing there, and she's going to highlight some of the key work that she's started since taking on the role of principal. Thanks,
Yes.
Jamie.
Thank you. Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I just want to preface by saying that our instructional leadership team and I, we did look at our goals that we currently had when I arrived, and we did update them. So I will have some data from last year as well to share with you. So Lafayette Elementary, our mission statement is engage, educate, and empower every child every day. Let's take on the world, Lions. Our vision is inspire lifelong curiosity in every child to be connected, confident, and caring within their community. Oh, there we go. Our first goal is reading. By June of 2025, the number of students identified as on or above grade level will increase from 43% to 55%. And so we actually created these goals to be a 3-year goal. So our end goal at 2028 would actually be around 75%. And so what we ended with last year for our final diagnostic was 53% of students on grade level in reading. In the fall, when we came in September, 25% of students were on grade level. And currently, the winter diagnostic showed that we were at 43%. And we'll be curious to see, our students are finishing up that test currently. And I can't wait to see where the growth happens. And how we're supporting that is daily intervention and small group reading based on student need. We're tracking intervention attendance. This is something that we didn't do previously. And so really making sure that the attenders that are showing up for intervention every day are truly getting that intervention, because as teachers have a concern or a worry, if we are looking back on their attendance sheets and noticing if they were gone for a week for illness, so kind of making sure that we're correlating the why behind if they're not making growth in intervention. Students are also creating their own goal for their aim line, so really understanding where they're at and taking some ownership within their growth of reading. And another change that we've recently made is interventionists. They are progress monitoring to help build that relationship with the students. So rather than one individual going through the whole school and doing the progress monitoring, they're actually working with their interventionists, and that has been a huge celebration. We're also adding Lexia. We have a June 2nd training for all of our teachers, and we will incorporate that piece next year. Our second goal for math, by June of 2025, the number of students identified as on or above grade level will increase from 22% to 40% using the iReady math data. Where we ended last year was 36% of students on grade level. And coming in this year in September and fall, we were 8% of students on grade level. And right now we're holding at 22. So again, making sure and hoping that that continues to rise. So for math, this will be something that we're very excited to have our new curriculum iReady. And again, that component of MyPath, so for students. So it's making sure they have small group support. So that's something we'll really work on for our professional development next year, is making sure that there's some calibration among teachers and some walkthroughs, what's working well. We had some great conversations after one of our cell presentations, and teachers really just enjoyed listening to what is working with each other. Pre and post assessments, formative assessments, and making sure that students are placed appropriately in groups. So if that means that they would travel to the other third grade teacher, and so really being mindful of what those look like. And we also have our parent engagement math night. Our goal 3 is social emotional learning and expected behavior. By June of 2025, we will increase the post-DESA scores in the strength category by 10%. So we looked at our referral data on Synergy, and that just didn't give us kind of what we were looking for. We're really trying to incorporate that Tier 1, that green zone, bringing back that fun and joy for students, and also having the expected behavior. And so currently, in fall, we were at 16%, and now our DESA just finished, and we are at 27%, so we did make 11% growth. And as I looked at the data from last year, what we normally fall in is in that typical, so where the blue is about 75%, and then we always, the last 2 years have been holding around that 18%, so it was really exciting to see that strength increase. We have daily SEL in the classroom, focusing on character traits, zones of regulation. That's something when I worked at Lafayette previously, every September and again in January, kind of during our rules rodeo, we go over our zones of regulation. Kelso's Wheel is just a problem-solving curriculum, and teaching students that they can solve their own problems out at recess, and when also to get adult help. We have calming corners in each of the classrooms, just a place to self-regulate. And we have incorporated golden awards. So the students have really had a lot of fun with that. We started that, I'd say, the beginning of April. And so we have a golden lunch tray for positive behavior in the cafeteria, a golden spray bottle for clean classroom. And so the students are coming up to me all the time saying, Miss Shep, how about this one? So they really have bought in and have some ownership with that. We do a Monday weekly rule review. So I announce the rule review with our leadership team every Monday. And we have our rules rodeo. So we've shifted that starting in March also, where the students, rather than kind of a sit and get in their classrooms, we're actually rotating through the different areas of the school so we can practice what that looks like and sounds like. Continuing to strengthen Tier 1, again, just making sure that our foundation for those expected behaviors are there for students. And then we do have Tier 2 small group behavior intervention groups for students who would benefit from that. For early literacy, K3, we have daily implementation of ECRI and Haggerty in kinder through second. As I shared, we have small group and intervention. We use our district screeners and diagnostics. One other exciting piece, we have our bilingual SEA. She pushes in for K1 in core instruction. And so those students who are newcomers, they have the extra support, and we've seen some amazing growth in their scores. Also, she is supporting during targeted intervention and helps with Tier 3 additional supports as well. And then we have our 3 times a year core review meetings and our 20% interventions as well. Some highlights, we did add an additional kindergarten teacher in January. So looking back at the data, once the 3rd kindergarten class, and the classrooms are now about at 18 for kindergarten. And so they've been able to make some great growth. We definitely have enough staff right now for the SEAs, and they are teachers as well. And the ratio is about 5-to-1 or 4-to-1. So the students are really able to have some just true small groups rather than having it be too large. And then the graph that you see here on that, so this is a perfect example of when, this is actually our 3rd grade teachers. For the students that were in Tier 2 or Tier 3 intervention, they were able to provide additional opportunities to practice. So in that 3rd column, you can see that there are 2 students that were in the green making growth. And then when they, after our last round of intervention, when we looked at the data, there was multiple students who had made significant growth, which was great to see. Other key priorities. So really expanding the enrichment opportunities for our students. We just recently purchased Character Strong and SEL curriculum. We have our Lafayette Garden, which is expanding as well. We have that in our courtyard for opportunities for students. They're going out there at lunch, during ELL time. They're doing math and measuring and doing writing, so all kinds of opportunities. Making sure that students have access to field trips, guest speakers, and other opportunities for STEM. And then also making sure that we're increasing our family engagement opportunities. So we have a math and a reading night, and I look forward to seeing what else we can incorporate with families. Next step, so as I shared, we have Character Strong for SEL to promote common universal language. They also have a Tier 2 component, and that provides professional development. So if we have a situation that comes up at our school, maybe it's friendship in 1st grade where they want to have a booster lesson, teachers would have an opportunity to use that program. Currently, we don't have a parent club, and that's something that the office manager and we just sent out that email. So I'm ready for some great parent involvement and to promote having a PTC next year. Again, just really focusing on those small math groups next year and attendance. So we have, we do a few things for a Tier 1, and I'll share that in the next slide, but really making sure what does that look like at Tier 2 and Tier 3. I'm calling homes, our Dean of Students is calling, but really what other pieces can we do to support that student achievement, focusing on restorative practices. And also, one thing that's very important to me is just that team building for our staff, making sure they have voice and recognition. I do shout outs every Monday for staff in my weekly bulletin. And parents know, staff know, if they have a question or a concern, my door's open anytime. And this is a fun one. So the points of pride and promise, I shared about our garden. We have our champs posters everywhere, so students never have to guess wherever they are in the school. They know what the behavior expectations are. Recently, about a month ago, we started our 5th grade self-manager program. So 5th graders were getting very excited to go to middle school, and so we just really wanted to show them that when you show that expected behavior, that you are recognized. And so we're sending home 10 awards each week for the 5th graders. They receive a treat and an award to go home. We have monthly character ed traits awards at our assembly. We have the parent engagement nights, the social skills groups, and also it's very exciting to have FACT at Welcome Center at Lafayette. And last but not least, we have Ag Day coming up June 3rd. So that's something we haven't had since 2019. Staff and students are very excited about that. So we'll have livestock, different compost center. We partnered with Peoria Gardens, OSU Master Gardeners. So we'll have lots of opportunities then. And we also graduated 9 ELL students. So we had 48 students this year, so that's a 19% that we graduated. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Self-managers, character traits. It's a little old school, I think. How, have you always done that, or did you just bring those back?
We just brought it back. It's
Okay.
something that, when I was at Sunrise, where at 2nd grade, the teachers would have, the kiddos be self-managers, but I thought, I'm noticing some behavior and we're just gonna spin it to a positive, and so that's what we started.
Yeah, that's something my kids did when we moved here in 2007. And
Yeah.
I thought it kind of went away, so.
It did, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Right, thank you.
Okay, next up, we're on to the consent agenda. Personnel classified. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the classified.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Regular board meeting, the 3/10/25. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve 3/10/25 minutes.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Regular board meeting, 4/7/25. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes for 4/7/25.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, regular board meeting, 4/21/25. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes for 4/21/25.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next up, memorandum of understanding, GAACE summer paycheck.
I'll move to approve the memorandum of understanding as written, as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Old business, NAM's roof repair replacement contract approval. Dave?
Yeah, I'll take you through this. I'll bring up Lauren Stanley, here, our Director of Facilities, while I introduce what we're asking tonight. So last board meeting, Lauren presented to you a bond spending plan. The first part of that plan was some roof repairs. We have a recommendation for Anderson Roofing for that first contract because it's over $150,000 to bring back to you. Lauren's here to answer any questions that you might have about that bid that came in.
Roger?
So how many bids were there? How many bids came in?
4 bids from 4 different contractors. There was 5 that showed up to the job walk, but 1 was already overcommitted, so they did not submit.
So are we awarding a contract tonight? Is that what this, are we awarding simple question, but are we awarding a contract to the lowest bidder?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
That's what we're recommending at this point for the board.
Any other questions?
Do we have the skill set to do an internal analysis about the range we think a bid will be for a project like that? Or is it just market driven? And I guess my model is at the county, we have a road department and they have folks, and we have a range that engineer's estimate, we call it, that a bid should come in at.
Well, I would say this, Lauren and I met and we estimated about under $800,000 to this project, and it came in at right at $800,000. So I think our Lauren's guesstimate was pretty
You didn't tell
spot
the
on.
bidders that.
No.
Thank you.
Any-
No, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Brad?
And I would just make sure that from Jane, sorry, Jane, three, that we have, the money's in the budget and we have this set aside for this repair?
We're using bond funds.
Okay.
So yes.
The ending.
Okay. All right, cool.
This is the one you said we had to do for insurance, right? We can't get insured if we don't do this.
Against water damage.
I think it's water damage, yeah.
It's a piece of that, yes.
It's one of, yeah, we have a lot of roofing needs in the district, so.
Okay.
A lot of the other ones are more easily repaired. This one, we need to replace it. There's no real repairing it at this point.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Dave.
Okay, reports, none, new business, future agenda items, other business, we're down to public comments from the public. We had no virtual or no written, but we have two that have requested public comment. Tom Cordier up first. You got 3 minutes, Tom.
You wait till he gets.
Oh, wow, look at that right there.
Okay,
Check it out.
thank you. Tom Cordier, I'm a member of the community. Couple of things. In this, the comments are made that we see continuing lower capture rates. But even tonight, nobody asks the question, why? I think I know why, but I haven't seen anybody polling the people who kids ought to be here to find out why they're not here.
I think I asked a few meetings back that we do some
You know,
research on.
maybe, okay. This board terminated a prior superintendent and an assistant superintendent. Thank you, board, for doing that. At the end of the school year last year, there was no negotiation started on the next contract, which ended up making us vulnerable to a teacher's strike when students are supposed to be in school. And I would think that we shouldn't repeat that. The other thing, there were several reports of teachers harassing school board members. Thugs were hired to force teachers to go on strike. And when local negotiations were going well, according to our chairman, it's when the state union, big union guns got involved when the negotiations turned south, not going well. My observation is that our current superintendent, any superintendent, should not be the lead negotiator for the school district. He has his concerns about he's got to deal with these people after the strike is gone. He should have been relieved from that duty when the state guys came in, and so that we could get some tough negotiators fighting off the tough union people from up north. The other thing is I have 35 seconds. I have a handout today, and may I approach the...
Sure.
Sure.
Giving a handout to each board member. This is an email which was developed on October 13th, 2024, which is written by the chief teachers union negotiator that written to supposedly every teacher at West Albany High School, and giving them a status report on the negotiations. and I don't have one
That,
for you. on
that's
Saturday.
all right.
I didn't
That's all right.
count correctly.
That's okay.
And I have one for the secretary. And this email doesn't bode well, in my view, for how the union was not negotiating in good faith. They sent this proposal, the last and best offer, to the state. And, but to me, the letter tells me that the, Mr. Beiser wasn't being honest in the negotiation. So I'd like this to be entered into the record and as part of the historical precedent of what happened in the last strike.
Okay, we can do that.
You have questions?
Nope, unfortunately, time's out.
Thank you.
I would, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
I would say the idea that we weren't negotiating, I mean, you guys were negotiating through the
Yeah, we
the whole
began
thing.
negotiating in February and negotiated up until the end of last school year, for sure. And then on into June, and then resumed on August 15th.
It certainly didn't go as everyone had hoped.
We'll speak also to the lower capture rates as we get into budget next
Right.
week.
Yep, okay. Thank you, Tom Cordier. Next up, Ms. Liz Craig, you're up. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Liz Craig. I'm a community member, a staff member, and the association, classified association president. Just a few things. Andy's right. We're working on this mentor deal, which is going to be awesome mentorship.
Sounds great.
Yes, much needed, and it will only benefit our students. But also, got to give a shout out to Wendy Rogers, who was one of the
I'm
three
sorry, I forgot about
coordinators.
her. Of course, Wendy was part of
And
that.
also Laura Warren from next door in Lebanon. She is renowned nationally, and we are super blessed to have her leading the way on this. As I saw my awesome little cousin come up here, and he's going to be on the board next year, that's awesome. But then it made me think, like, why aren't we hearing from Albany Option Schools? Maybe there's not enough folks there to come and hold a whole seat, but maybe they can enter a report or something. We'd like to give them an opportunity to be heard as well as our third high school. Food service, there is so much positive things happening. Obviously, I am the association president, so I hear the negative things. We have some distribution issues, supply distribution, I'm hearing, that is causing some issues, and maybe some staff shortage that is creating some issues for folks in certain kitchens that are having a much heavier workload with these new foods. So we have members who have asked to speak with Andy. Andy's agreed. We're going to set a date, and we will invite a school board member or two to come in and sit in and hear different perspectives.
I have one on the hook. Good to go.
Love that. Yep.
Okay.
We're working through them. There's good things happening. I sent an email about something I spoke with in last public comment about classified voice not being in all of the appropriate spaces. Bruce replied, I haven't had a chance to go through the article yet. But just because classified aren't listed in the certified contract in that article on behavior, I don't think we should be excluded from those meetings. When a teacher's having a behavior problem, we're the ones who are called in to deal with that. So I think we're going to work on it. Like I said,
Have you read the response to the email?
I read your response.
Okay,
Yes,
great,
I just haven't read the
fantastic.
Article 22 to reply to your response yet to
Got
see
it.
where it would exclude us from coming in and being part of that conversation. So the other thing, I would encourage Tom to maybe ask some questions. Ken Beiser is a really awesome, great human who I think is really awesome. But it sounds like there's a lot of questions that maybe need to be answered. And I think if we opened up a community conversation, we could answer some questions and maybe figure out what really happened in our leading to the strike and things. But yeah, thank you all so much. Really excited for all the great work moving forward here in the district.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Liz.
Liz.
Okay, that's the end of comments from the public. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
I'll second. Go ahead.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll adjourn. Thank you, everybody.